Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Coaching Kristy 2, only on deucescracked.com. This is Andrew Beluga Whale Sideman, and with me is the awesome Kristy Arnett. How are you, Kristy?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing pretty well, just getting by. Today we have a video with a little bit of a different vibe to it. The player, it's from Deuces Cracked user. I'm not even know how I'm going to say this, but it's like Nine of Hearts, Jack of Hearts, Queen, King, Ace of Hearts. It's basically the nut flush, but one short of the royal. Oh no, the Nine of Diamonds. Whatever. It's a username who has never gave me his real name, but it's it's complicated. Anyway, we're just gonna call him. What are we gonna call him? What should we call him? Ace High. We're gonna call him Ace High.
Okay.
Okay, because I don't know what else to call him, because that's all he has. His name is Ace High. So Ace High sent me a little some background on him. That before he's an American player, and before Black Friday, he was playing up through 600 no limit, and actually taken his first shot at 510 at 1,000 no limit. But after he was still sort of like feeling it out and was sort of getting used to it. And he put a small amount onto Merge after Black Friday, and has been playing, which is why we're going to be on Hero Poker and Bad Beat Poker, which I didn't even know those existed, but they do. And so what we're going to do is and so the other thing is he's been playing at the smaller stakes at like 50 cent $1, but he's got experience at higher stakes, so he's given us a mix of different limits here to look at. We have 1, 2, 4 table, two 50 cent $1 tables, and 1, 1, 2 table. So for those of you guys watching, the 2 4s in the top left, the 1 2s in the top right, and the other two are 50 cent $1. All right.
All right. I was gonna say, what the heck is Hero Poker?
I have no idea. It sounds fun though. But we're gonna go ahead and roll the tape. And there's a few things that I want to talk about today, Kristy. One of them comes from a question in the forums from, I want to say, this is Coaching Kristy number 7, so this would have been Coaching Kristy number 5, I think, where the question was, where we had one of our students had 3-bet like Queen 9 pre-flop or something, and they're saying, well, is this a value bet because it seems like it's difficult to value bet, or is it a bluff, or what is it? And what do you think the answer to that question is, Kristy, when we 3-bet a hand like Queen 9 pre-flop against like a weaker player?
Against a weaker player, it's for value, and it's like when you're 3-betting that hand, even though you can get called by better, but like if they're a weak player, you are just it always behooves you. You can play a 3-bet pot with a weak player, and your hand doesn't have to be as strong as if you were 3-betting for value against a better player.
So what you're saying is that because the weaker player will call with worse hands, things like, Jack 10 suited or, 8-7 offsuit or whatever, that 3-betting with Queen 9 actually has value, whereas against a good player who doesn't do those things, and then you don't get any value from Queen 9.
Yeah. And but also, like, I think that weaker players will still call with better hands, and are more likely to call with better hands than 4-bet even.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But still, because they'll call so many times with worse hands, and because they're weak players, I think it's still fine and value.
Okay, so here's where I'm going to dive in and sort of offer some devil's advocate. So you say that there's going to be a lot of better hands.
No, not a lot of better hands, but like, I'm just saying that when you're against a weaker player, I think that even, because Queen 9 is probably getting as low as you could go for value.
Hold on, I'm going to pause you really quickly before we get back to this. Just a moment ago, we folded Jack 6 suited on the button here, on the top left table.
Okay.
I'm going to try to scoot us back to where that happened. So it's, I guess, 2 hands from here. What do you think about that? We have a 24 Jack 5 suited here. We have like a 24-18 on the left table, and like a 32-29 in a big blind.
I mean, we've definitely talked about this so many times about just even if they're regs, or especially if they're regs, you can just min raise the button with hands like this and just not. And since they're folding so often, it's profitable. But if
Well, so
they.
this is a spot that's actually a little different than the ones we've talked about before.
Okay.
Because right now we have two lose aggressive players in the blinds.
Okay.
Normally we say, oh, obviously we have two nits, we're going to min raise everything. And if we have like one fish, we're going to raise just about everything. And if we have like even one nit and one, kind of aggro dude, we're going to min raise everything. Right? But what happens when we have two guys where, like, let's say if we're going to risk 8 to win 6, right? We need them to fold, I'm just doing this off the top of my head, something like probably 60% of the time, to ignoring post-flop to make pre-flop profitable, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm sure that math is wrong, but I'm sorry. I'm not good at that stuff. But the point that I'm trying to get at, though, is that in a spot like this, we actually might not get our opponents to fold enough to make the pre-flop just, purely profitable.
So if you think that they're going to be 3-betting you a ton, then you shouldn't. I mean, I'm just not saying that like you should do this all the time, but if you're going to raise a hand, you could think about like 4-bet bluffing or something if you know that they're going to be 3-betting you a lot.
Cool.
Or is that too?
No, that's what I'm going for. There's two ways you can deal with two people being really aggressive at you. The first way is that you can just play tightly and just fold the Jack 5 suited like we do here.
Okay.
And there's nothing wrong with playing tight, especially when there's not like a lot of value to be had at the table. Now the problem with sort of playing tightly is that ideally, if our opponents are going to be putting money in the pot with bad hands by re-raising us a lot, we like to take that money from them as opposed to just like letting them have the blinds.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? So in general, when we have a choice between the tight option and the aggressive option, it's usually better against somebody who else is being aggressive at us to be more aggressive back at them. This is why like really high stakes games take on the nature that they do, where everyone's just shoving all in with crazy things. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because it's like rather than just letting you be the more aggressive player here, I'm going to, rather than just give up, I'm going to try to out aggressive you. And it's really hard to beat the best players in the world at this game, but it's the only way that you can. If you choose to not try to out aggressive them, they will win. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Now I don't know how good these players are, and like a lot of these loose aggressive players will not notice that you're folding buttons and things like that, and they'll still just stack off to you when you play a little tightly. So playing tightly at smaller stakes is really not a bad thing. Against these kind of laggy guys, so if you find yourself really lost and confused. But it's the kind of thing where if I was looking at the situation and I decided I was going to be opening Jack 5 suited here, it would be with the intention of 4-betting a lot.
Mhm.
Do you know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Because it doesn't make a lot of sense here to open and fold to a re-raise.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because we're going to get re-raised a lot. So like having that be our plan is not great. It's either better to fold or to like raise and come over the top. Obviously, if we had a stronger hand, then raising and calling would be an option, but Jack 5 suited is really not good enough to call with. Okay, I just want to bring that up because that's like a little bit of a different spot than the one we're usually in,
Mhm.
where it's like I'm just going to raise and my opponents
Yeah.
are just going to fold or they're going to call, and if they 3-bet, then they've got the nuts and I can fold. It's just a lot different when your opponents have actually difficult ranges to deal with.
Yeah.
But I want to get back to the question that we were talking about before, which is this Queen 9 situation. You sort of said, yeah, there's some better hands, there's some worse hands. Like depending on how loosely he calls us, sure, it might be just straight value, right?
Mhm.
But what I'm gonna sort of hint at here is that 3-betting a hand like Queen 9 against a weaker player is really the definition of what we're gonna call a two-way bet. Okay?
Mhm.
We expect him to call with worse hands. We expect him to call with it all pre-flop. But if we're thinking about things in a multi-street way, we expect our opponent to call pre-flop and put in money bad when he flops top pair with like Jack 10 on a Queen Jack 4 board, right? Or not top pair, but like second pair when we have top pair. We expect our opponent to call and fold incorrectly with like Ace 4 when the flop comes down, Jack 7-3.
Mhm.
Right? So in this sense, we're both bluffing and value betting at the same time, but it works over multiple streets. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
This is sort of like there's a big debate that went on a long time ago about whether or not two-way bets existed. And the truth is that in one individual street, it's still possible, but it's very, very, very rare to see a two-way bet. It's possible. But it's in a multiple street way. It happens all the time,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Um, because somebody like I'm trying to think of a good example here. First of all, this is like vaguely related. We have kings here with the second nut flush draw, and we face like a donk shove from this guy who's a 30-27, or a donk, not donk shove, just a big donk bet. What do you think we should do here with kings?
I can't actually see those numbers. Is it just did he bet pot into him or
He
what's the
bet
bet?
50. He bet 58 here into 93. So, and we're playing 2-4, so this is not actually that big of a bet. We had raised pre-flop. Actually, I'd like to see the action again because we were talking about other things and I got a little bit confused. Because I think that we
We raised to 12 under the gun, the
we
button.
c-bet the flop. Yeah, we c-bet this
Yeah.
flop here for thin value, I guess. What do you think about not c-betting this flop?
Um, I think not c-betting the flop makes the hand really hard to play against two people. But
That's true, but that's also a really bad reason to not to do something. I don't want to do it because it's hard.
no, I mean, of course, like the whole betting to see where you're at is not like a great thing, but against two opponents, you really, really have no idea where you are in the hands because I think if you check the button bets a ton and then I don't
I'm
know.
not compelled.
I like c betting the flop. I think that c betting the flop is better.
I'm going to disagree with you.
Okay.
Because I'm going to first of all strike. It's really hard to play from the rules of things you can justify your answers with. Okay?
Okay.
Because that's not appropriate. Also, saying if we check and the button's going to bet a lot, that's not a bad thing. Okay?
Yeah.
When you say he's going to bet a lot, that implies that he's betting, most of his hands, which are definitely behind kings. Okay?
Mhm.
So I view if we check and the button bets a lot there as not as being a difficult, terrible thing to have happen. So here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to draw a difference between what we're used to at smaller stakes at like 50 cent, $1, and what will happen when we hit 2-4.
Okay.
Because this is a really good example because we're seeing both things happen at once. Regs at 2-4 you're not going to get tell me what hands you're going to get value from here with kings when you bet the flop. And when you bet the flop three-way.
I guess flush draws and broadways with like maybe the button will call with like lots of broadways that have gutters or flush draws or a queen.
But the thing is, you got two kings.
Yeah.
So it's real hard for him to have king queen.
Yeah.
It's hard for him to have king jack. Or king 10. We're looking just straight at the queen, the queen jack, the jack 10, stuff like that. But a lot of players with like queen jack are just going to fold that on the flop when you bet three-way.
Mhm.
Because they're better at hand reading than people at smaller stakes. People at smaller stakes are like, oh, I've got a pair. This guy c bets everything. I'll peel. But a 2-4 reg knows that you're not c betting an ace queen 3 board into two people as a bluff all that often,
Mhm.
right? So what I'm saying here, or what I'm thinking to start off with, is not that I think I'm beat. I think my hand is still probably good enough of the time to not fold on the flop. But I'm thinking that I can't get value, number one. And then number two, it's going to be really, really hard to what was the word I was going to use? Shoot. So it's going to be really hard for me to be drawn out on. So if we're ahead here, we don't lose very often, right?
Mhm.
Even someone with like two hearts has to both spike a heart and dodge another heart because we have the king. So I'm not sure we should be betting because of those two things. Those two things sort of generally come together. How easily am I outdrawn and how good can I get value? How good is the value? In lower stakes, usually we say the value's good, so I'm betting.
Mhm.
And that's sort of where our head stays at, and that's usually correct. Once we get up to mid stakes or higher stakes, we have to say, how good is the value I'm getting? And really on the flop here, it's not good.
Mhm.
It's quite bad. But see, what happens here is if we check, then either the button bets, which is sort of fine because we expect him to be bluffing his entire range there, and we have good protection against if he wants to try to start bluffing on us heart turn, we can call there too. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
because we have the redraw. Um, the whole hand plays out, I think, a little bit a little bit differently. And the last thing I want to say is this: people say, "Oh, it'll be easier to play, if you bet." And the truth is that no matter how we do it, it's not going to be easy. We don't have a great flop for our hand, right?
Mhm.
Doesn't matter if we bet or we check. Like, is this turn any easier than had we checked? Like, now this guy donks into us on the heart turn. Like, it's not like, you know, we didn't dodge a huge easy bullet there where it's like, oh, this is all super simple. No, it just sucks. The reason why it sucks has nothing to do with, how we choose to play our hand. It sucks because our hand, is sort of right in that just good enough but not amazing range that makes us uncomfortable.
Mhm.
It's just like we call pocket eights from the blinds, and then the flop comes down 9-7-3, and we check, and the guy bets. It's like, ugh, what do we do? So this is actually, continues to be interesting. Not anymore once he checks. It would have been interesting if he bet. But once he checks here, what do you think we should do? Value bet or no?
Um,
This is actually quite interesting.
since I think that he can. I don't know if he's like the type of person who would be able to call with two pair, but I think you can get value from two pairs, and um,
Do you
I
think this guy, 30-27, like a pretty good reg, is going to be calling a lot of two pairs when the board runs out like this?
um, I didn't know that he was good.
Well, you know how I think about these things in the sense of, if I see a reg and his VPIP is over 30,
Hmm.
I give him a little bit of credit
Yeah.
because, like, in my opinion, players who play loosely tend to be playing more correctly, at least with regards to preflop. So I don't know how good he is or how well he lays things down. In fact, his looseness usually will indicate also that he has a hard time folding. So in that sense, like, I think that we can bet, but I think that most decent 2-4 players are never calling with two pair here.
Okay.
Which is why, like, I actually think that you can make a really good argument for this being just a straight check.
Okay.
The only other thing you could do would be betting really small. But even then, like, I still think that probably this is, like, actually kind of a gross check not because I think that we're behind that often, because we're not behind that often. I just don't think we get called by worse nearly as often as we get, I don't know, as we get, fooled around with by something that's like, you know, he was check raising, he was donking with king 10 or something like that, and then, now he doesn't, now he's going to check call because he doesn't know what to do or something like that. Like, I feel like it's sort of going to be rare for us and we bet 185 into 209. That's just like, it's going to be really, really, really hard for us to get paid off here by anything worse. Maybe pocket jacks if he didn't re-raise them pre-flop. It's just like a whole, it's like a weird scene where, like, even if we do get called here by pocket jacks, like, I'm sure I'd be surprised that we have any value here at all. And the sort of fact that the guy folds is not a real big surprise there. You dig?
Mhm.
It's a really good example though of, like, as players get better, how do we need to shift our mindset? Right? And actually, all you guys who are playing 1-2 and even 50 cent $1, as these games are getting more difficult, like, you need to be aware of these shifts in mindset also. You can't just say, I have kings, there's a queen on the board, ace queen board, like, I can get value. Like, it's going to depend on who the players are, and it's going to depend on the table dynamics, how many players are on the flop, and who's going to call what. A lot of players get, it's not that it's easier to bet there, it's just that you're more used to it.
Mhm.
It's comfortable to you because, like, it's comfortable to you in the way that, like, if somebody re-raises you pre-flop and you have aces, you can, like, shove all in pre-flop with aces because, like, you know what to do, right?
Yeah.
Like, that I know this can't be bad type of thing. Whereas, like, just because it's plus EV or just because you have done it before is not a great reason for for continuing to do it. So here's a good question here. A guy, we raise. How did this action even happen? I'm sorry for, like, keep on missing the action, but I don't know how we ended up not re-raising this board somehow. So we raised pre-flop and got a call when we flopped trips.
Mhm.
and I and we decide to check the flop. What do you think here? This seems crazy.
Yeah, it's
This guy's a 67-33, so over just a few hands.
um
Hands, so never mind.
but still, like, if you're okay, so he raised into the big blind, he was in the small blind, yeah?
He raised in the big blind.
Okay. Like, I think that he should c-bet because he's c-betting like anything that he has most of the time.
Uh-huh.
And and if he was gonna check, it seems weird that he didn't check raise on this board.
So I'm gonna play the devil's advocate for a second, and I want you to tell me why I'm wrong.
Okay.
Okay? This guy might be a bad aggressive player. He has been playing loosely and he's raised before. He's not sitting with a full stack, so he's definitely not a good player. So I thought that if I checked, I could both let him catch up potentially, and I could also let him run some bluffs at me. Why am I wrong?
Because, well, just because he's raised once doesn't mean he's like a bad aggressive player.
Good point. Number one, we don't know for sure he's bad aggressive.
And the board is a little bit coordinated, and if he's catching up, then I don't know.
Not all catching up is good for us. That's a decent point.
And
I'm gonna do an even easier one. If the guy happens to be bad passive, we obviously want to bet. Because if he's passive, we're not going to get that much value. But let's just say he is bad aggressive. What do bad aggressive people love to do against c-bets that are usually missed? Raise. So checking and inducing him to bet into us is not nearly as good as betting to induce him to raise against us.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then you worry about him catching up. Well, the truth is he's going to catch up no matter what happens so long as he doesn't fold.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
And since we don't think, because he's bad, we think he's not going to fold at all. This is something people get really deep inside their own heads, and they're, I'm going to try these tricky new lines and things like that. And the real truth is, the tried and true is usually best. Now, we also have huge problems here in controlling the pot size. So we check call, and now we have to donk the turn, which it looks like we're going to do. This whole hand has just turned into a massive, I don't know if that's an appropriate way to call it, but the word I was going to use was started with the word cluster. So then we donk the turn, whole bunch of draws get there on the river, and we're like, oh my god, what do I do? And the pot's 120, and the guy has 254. Yikes. If the pot was 24 if we bet 20 on the flop, he calls, the pot becomes 64. We bet 60 on the turn, he calls, the pot's now 180. We can overbet shove, and he can call.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Just real simple. And obviously if he raises us anywhere, then it's just gravy.
Mm-hmm.
The only people against whom you would ever want to do something like that, to check raise or check call the flop or something like that, are people who are very, very, very good at hand reading, and you're basically top tier players that you're trying to confuse. But even then, you're probably going to confuse them more by just being aggressive. Right?
Yeah.
The only time I ever get really tricky like that is when I'm in position anyway. When you're out of position, your hands are pretty much tied. You just got to go for it. In position, you can do some tricky things against really, really, really good regs, but we're not in that position. So you see, we ended up over shoving the river there, but it was way too big. You know what I mean? We were betting effectively 280 into 120 or something like that, and that was just way too big. So we folded Jack 10 there against this guy. What do you think we should have done with Jack 10? Same guy.
Well, I know we talked about being able to 3-bet Queen 9 for value, and Jack 10 is just. I think it's pretty much the same amount of value.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we could still 3-bet there, and he would call.
Yeah, I think we should. I think we should squeeze the Queen 9 there also. There's a lot of opportunities when there's a fish involved that we're passing up right now.
Especially because he's playing every hand. He's probably gonna go broke soon.
Yeah, he appears to be a bad aggressive guy. You know, he's raising a bunch of hands. He's not folding a bunch. Um, there's this guy's clock is incredibly fast. He's probably going to go broke in a hurry. And the truth is that every opportunity that we pass up to sack this guy, I know I've hammered this point home a million times, but it's doing things like taking Jack 10 or Queen 9 there on the button and squeezing. This is going to bring me back to what I was talking about before, which is kind of good. That this idea of two-way bets. We'll be able to get great value against this guy, right? When we flop top pair or something like that, like we'll be able to get great value. But additionally, we'll also be able to get him to fold things, you know, that miss the flop, because even bad aggressive players will play fit or fold to a certain degree. They might float us on the flop a fair amount, but they're good candidates to be double barreled. They're good candidates to, we don't need very much to basically stack them. You know what I mean? Like, they're going to put a lot of money in the pot with terrible, terrible, terrible hands. It's not going to be super difficult for us to get value from him, but the thing is, it's not going to be super difficult for anyone else at the table either. So every chance that we miss is another chance that they get.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then a lot of players too, when they start to play higher limits, they clam up a little bit. They decide to play tighter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they're like, there's a lot more aggression. I don't know what to do. This is an interesting spot over here with aces. What should we do against? Okay, good. We flatted. Do you think that's good?
Yeah,
Okay.
I
think
like
it's
it.
good since I already said it was good. But no, it's great to flat there. First of all, if he c bets here and folds, like he's bluffing, we win another huge bet off of him.
Mm-hmm.
If he had a hand like ace 8 with the ace of hearts, we're a huge favorite against him, post flop, and we stack a hand we wouldn't otherwise have stacked. So that time he had queens, so it didn't really matter. So we see it doesn't really matter what happens on the flop when your opponent has a good hand.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. But we give him the chance if he has a bad hand, and this guy looks like he's a 29-25. That guy can definitely be 4-bet bluffing us, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think that's good. I want to get back to the Jack 10 Queen 9 thing though. When people move up limits, they have a tendency to clam up, to be like, I'm going to play tightly, there's more aggression, whatever. And what ends up happening when people do that is they end up missing the opportunities that they need to be a winner at the limit.
Mm-hmm.
They want to take it slow and knit out, but they don't realize that knitting out at higher stakes is not a key to winning money. Knitting out at lower stakes is is a fine way to, if you're nervous or whatever, to make money, because you can always. We check the turn there with our straight.
Well, I think he checked the flop too, which I think is weird. The guy.
Yeah, the guy's short. We have a double gutter and 2 overcards.
Yeah.
Or an open end straight or on 2 overcards.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that there's just a bunch of spots we've seen so far where it's just we've done weird stuff on the flop as the pre-flop raiser.
Mm-hmm.
And if this guy was someone that we were coaching, that would be sort of the first thing I would say is we need to get real strong with why are we betting.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, be the only reason not to bet when you have value is because there's better value later. I don't think that against a short stack with 2 overcards, a backdoor flush draw, and an open-end straight draw, that you're going to get better value on a later straight than you are on the flop.
Yeah.
And the same sort of thing with the kings. I think we could get better value by waiting, or kings on the ace queen board. The sevens, the 3 sevens, we absolutely could get better value by betting. The only reason why we would check there is to induce better value than we could get by betting. And if we're really going to make a guess, there's no chance that it's better.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pretty difficult concept for people to get their head around, about this idea of can I bet for value? Yes. So then do I bet for value? You say yes, unless it's better to wait. And most of the time, it's not better to wait. Against good players, it might be better to wait because they're aggressive. It's usually better to wait against people who are really aggressive, because then they'll do it for you. It's like the idea of it might against an aggressive reg. If I flop a set or something like that, it might be a better idea to just not raise until the river, because they're gonna bluff 3 streets really often.
Mm-hmm.
So I might just get better value, even though I might not stack pocket aces or something. I probably get better overall value by just having him fire 3 huge barrels. That make sense?
Yeah, definitely.
Coolio. I want to get back to the psychology of people moving up limits though. Um, when they when people have I mean, you experienced this yourself live in Vegas this year.
Hmm.
That like you were involved in some pots that were enormous, right?
Yeah.
That were like, definitely put you a little bit beyond your comfort zone, definitely caused you to question whether or not you were doing the right thing. And the sort of important thing to do, and which I think you actually probably did a pretty good job of it naturally, is, sticking with what you know is good. I don't think you didn't like tighten up big time when you played bigger, did you?
No, not at all.
Which is good. Like that's good. Um, People oftentimes they associate playing loosely with losing money because playing loosely tends to increase your variance
Hmm.
in the short term. But the truth is that your long-term variance has to do with your win rate. So, you know, I jokingly when I started playing, I'd taken a break when I started playing again. I immediately went 40 buy-ins under EV, and I was like, this is really lame. Like, but I never thought to myself I should tighten up. I was like, I've lost a bunch of money, but like I'm definitely doing well. And then I won like 50 buy-ins in like a week. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So like, it's not it doesn't actually help you to play tighter. It's just it's an illusion. It tricks you into thinking that you're doing better because you don't lose as many big pots like really quickly by playing tighter, but you are not going to win as much money, and most likely if you're not a winner, you're going to obviously end up losing anyway.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, the psych of moving up limits is like very very interesting to me. Jack 6 suited over here. We got a nitty guy on the bottom right table. We have a guy who's 17-13. I would treat this bottom right table like we're on the button. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like players, people tend to give these like 17-13s like over here, or there's another one on the table somewhere over here that I saw. 19-14s here. 18-13 might be the same guy. No, 18-13 here. People tend to give, the same guy. People tend to give these guys like, too much credit. They're like, oh, I'm in the cutoff. I can't raise because there's this guy on the button. That guy's like not even playing.
Yeah.
He's like chilling in the chair. It's like a comfortable chair. So that's why he's there. Yeah.
Man, watching
So
this and knowing that this guy is in the United States is like
it's
pretty.
really weird.
Yeah, I'm pretty much. I feel like going to download this right after.
Yeah, it might not be a bad idea. Although actually, I'm gonna caution anyone watching who decides
Yeah,
to
exactly. Just like we do
I
not.
would be
I don't.
super nervous about putting any money on any site that claims they can legally serve Americans. I would
Sure.
be super nervous. Like, because if they can do it, if they can move you your money like within a week or two, like why weren't other people doing that?
Yeah,
You know
seriously.
what I mean?
Seriously.
Like there's some kind of a disconnect. Now I'm not gonna be on this video and say like, you're gonna lose all your money if you play on HeroPoker.com, or you're gonna like get your money jacked if you're on Merge or whatever.
But we're just not telling you to do it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna recommend that you do it or not do it. You
Exactly.
can redo your own research and make your own. So here's another big mistake here for the upper right. We talked about this before. We flat King Jack against this guy.
Hmm.
Huge. A second ago, we two barreled. We had a gutter and we turned an ace and we two barreled it and the guy folded.
Hmm.
Right.
Hmm.
That tells me all I need to know. That like being aggressive at this guy with something like King Jack is going to be easy. Think about how amazingly this. And we check the king turn. Oh my God. Hopefully we're raising here. Nope. We check call. If you think about the way that this hand would have played out differently, had we re-raised pre-flop? Okay.
Hmm.
We re-raise pre-flop.
You.
He calls.
Yeah, you see bet the flop, he calls, then you
Bet the
bet the
flop. We
turn.
capitalize our equity on the king. We bet again. If he has a draw, knowing this guy, he probably shoves. If he has a mid pair, he might hero call down. Right?
Hmm.
If he was on a pure float, he probably just folds, but that's okay because we were going to barrel him, a fair amount of the time anyway. Like, we're just going to get, by having so much equity in the pot pre-flop, we're going to get so much more value by just doing this. And then if we are going to check, like the turn there, we must raise. You see he has Jack 8 there. Like, that hand plays that. We get so much more money just by 3-betting pre-flop against him.
Mm-hmm.
You know. Now we're taking a note on this fish where it's like, you know, first of all, you're never going to see this guy again because he's about to lose all of his money. And, you know, like, that's the kind of note that's not, I mean, he just left, so that's, like, lame. That's the kind of note that's, like, not particularly helpful. I only will take notes on someone if it's, like, somehow relevant to my future planning against them, or if it confuses me in some way. Right?
Yeah.
So, like, if I see somebody 3-bet me with 7-6 suited, I know they're 3-betting me with a polarized range. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's all I need to know. If I see somebody 3-betting me with king queen, that's, you know, same difference. I'll take a note on that. I won't take a note on the guy 3-betting me with ace king and then, you know, c-bet the flop and then gave up. Like, that's, you know, only interesting. I might take a note on that because it's like, oh, he didn't barrel it. Like, that would be my note.
Right.
But, like, it's only things that are actually instructive or, like, helpful. Just writing down what happened isn't enough. You have to write down what happened and know what changes that's going to mean for you. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure.
So, like, this guy writes down, you know, check back turn with air, check back flop with air, bet turn. How is that going to, you know, help him later? Only in, like, a very specific situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, well, he checked back air, so that means I shouldn't be flatting with good things pre-flop, but he's a fish, so I shouldn't be flatting with good things pre-flop anyway. He bet the turn with air after I checked twice, which makes him like a normal human being. Again, we don't raise ace 8 here. We call this is blind versus blind.
Mm-hmm.
Ton of value to be had by raising ace 8 there on the flop.
Yeah.
And, you know, it looks like now we're probably just going to end up calling down and, you know. Yeah. So here's a good question for Ace High, who's our guy, who didn't give me a name, but that's cool. If we're not raising Ace 8 for value on the flop there, what should we be doing, Kristy?
You mean in a different hand or this
Or
hand?
just like if we don't think we can raise Ace 8 for value on an Ace 9-8 board, what do you think we should be doing with our entire range?
Then, wait, I guess I'm not really understanding your question.
Sure. Well, my point is this: if we don't think that we can 3-bet or raise Ace 8 for value, if we think that like he folds too often,
Oh, then you're using that spot to bluff?
Yeah, we should. I mean, I don't think we should bluff here. God no. I think that we should be, you know, value raising there all day because I think we can get great value.
Yeah.
But like, if let's say I'm playing against you and I know that like you're, you know, I think that you're going to read me raising you on the flop there as a very strong thing, then obviously I'm going to flat with ace 8. I'm going to raise as a bluff.
Mm-hmm.
But my point is that people who flat there with ace 8 and fold with, you know, 5-4, right?
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't make sense. And a lot of people do it.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Okay.
They flat with the really good thing and they fold the bad thing. And it's either you should be flatting with the good thing and raising the bad thing, or you should be folding the bad thing and raising the good thing.
Okay.
See where I'm at with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So here's an interesting spot up there. The guy donk shoves into us with king queen on this king. Actually, never mind. I thought it was a 9 board. Never mind. Not that interesting. Sorry. I thought we had a straight. But we just had a pair and a straight draw. I mean, not trying to be too harsh on my man Ace High. And by the way, thanks for the video. We appreciate it. But it's something I see all the time. It's really common. It's like a gap in logic.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, because it's like it definitely makes sense, but it's sort of hard to like like when you say that to me, and I think we've talked enough poker before where, when I do things, I'm doing things like that, but when if you're just learning, just to think of that yourself is really.
Oh, I mean, it's an incredibly difficult gap of logic to get a hold of.
Mhm.
We threw bet 7-6 suited there in the big blind. That's okay, but I think it's probably better just to flat it. It was blind versus blind, so. But I was gonna say, it's very hard to get that gap of, or to get over that gap of logic, without somebody just like putting it in your face.
Yeah.
Um, because, uh, well, I mentioned this a lot. I use the word self-preservationist. When people start playing poker, they want to preserve themselves. The idea of losing money is worse to them than the idea of winning money is good.
Okay. Yeah.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So rather than risking to win, they prefer to not risk,
Mhm.
right? And it's totally illogical, it's totally irrational, but it's what people do. And that is just an extension of this, where it's like, I'm calling with ace eight because I don't want to lose, right? And I'm also not raising with 5-4 because I don't want to lose. Do you see what I'm saying? That there's not there doesn't develop like the actual like higher level theory of saying like, oh, well, if I'm raising here, it is because I can get value, and because I can get value, I can't bluff.
Right.
And then you say, oh, well, I am flatting here because I can't get value, and because I can't get value, I can bluff.
Mhm.
If all that makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, and we bet 7 on the river here with top trips.
Is he trying to induce?
I don't know, but that's usually a terrible idea. It's really hard to get people to at least lower than 5-10. It's really hard to induce people to raising the river. We also bet like a little bit too small with the set of sevens over here also. These are some, big issues. I know we've talked about it a million times, but like bigger is better. It's better because people don't really care what you have. At a certain degree, like we said before, better players will be able to read things, will read betting patterns or whatever. But here's the thing. When you bet the river, you are inherently like polarized to a certain degree. Basically, there's no more equity left. So, you're either stone bluffing or you're value betting.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So in that sense, this is why people are very, very, very rarely raise the river. Because they don't want to raise as a bluff if you're value betting for fear that you're going to call. And they don't want to raise, the bluff against the bluff because they think that they'd rather just call if you're bluffing.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so it's really hard to induce a river raise unless you're playing against someone who's thinking at a very high level. Just because people will just assume you're either value betting or bluffing, and they will assume that if you're value betting, they can't get you to fold.
Yeah.
As we talked about this before, like, what does he have? A hand. What do people not fold? A hand. Right? Never bluff people off a hand. You might remember me telling you that 100,000 times.
Yeah.
Well, against good players, you might be able to fold. Obviously, that goes out the window. Like, if you have ace jack and the board is jack 5-4, deuce 7, and you bet the river and I shove over top for another 50 big blinds or something, like, you might fold.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's a terrible spot to be in. And so against you, who might be thinking about, like, crap, like, a lot of straights are in, it was a dry board, you could have sets, you could have two pairs, whatever, you might think there's more value combos than bluffs, and you might fold, so that might be a good spot for me to turn something into a bluff and raise the river, but, like, people even at 2-4 are not at that level.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So you, like, betting 7 to try to induce is almost certainly going to be a worse idea than, betting 7 times the pot and hoping to get a hero call.
Yeah, yeah. I just had a question on the bottom right. So just the last hand, winner Raz, or winner RZZ, whatever, he raised under the gun to 3, and he
Hmm.
was, he had like $72 or something like that.
Hmm.
And obviously he's super tight over, I mean, I guess is it only over 45 hands?
Um,
Or,
yeah, not over very many hands. I can't read exactly how. Yeah, 45 hands it looks like.
so we just folded king, queen suited.
Yeah, 45 hands is not enough to do that, I don't think.
Okay.
I wouldn't re-raise though.
Yeah, yeah, no, I don't think it's a good spot for
It's like
value,
so,
but
let me ask you a question here. So let's say we flatted with king queen suited,
yeah,
and the flop comes down king 3-6, and he bets. What's our line?
call.
Yeah, cool. And then let's say the turn card's a 7 offsuit, and he bets again. What's our line?
Well, if you are like calling the turn, you're obviously calling the river. I mean, because anything he bets is going to be like tiny compared to the pot. But like, then what is he value betting? Like, I don't think he's value betting king jack if he's like super super tight.
He may not even have king jack. So like as far as we know, we don't know. Um,
But he's definitely
the
not betting bluffing two streets if
Yeah,
he's that
he's
tight.
probably not bluffing at all. I mean, that's
Yeah.
when I talk about nits and like how you can ignore them. You know, they are, first of all, it's very likely that they're literally never bluffing.
Mhm.
Like when you see a guy who has a 5% three bet stat, like
Mhm.
even like an aggressive guy, like aggressive-ish guy, who has a 5% three bet stat. Like let's take this guy on our left here on the bottom right table, this X-Man 28.
Mhm.
He's a 27-18, super loose. His three bet is 6.
Mhm.
5% of hands is premiums.
Yeah.
Okay? So it's plausible that this guy is like literally never bluffing. This 22-15 guy's three bet is 4.7. You know, that guy, I would assume from those stats, literally never three bet bluffs.
Mhm.
Even if you have someone who has like a three bet of 7, let's say, they're three bet bluffing so rarely relative to when they have premiums that it's just not important. We don't worry about them. So like again, if I have king queen there and this guy bets the turn, I'm just gonna fold.
Mhm.
You know, like I sort of like I have enough equity to call on the flop, like see what happens. Obviously, if I improve, that would be super awesome. Um, and there's a good chance that he'll give up or he'll check, and I'll be able to get value from things like kings jacks 10 or queens jacks 10s rather.
Mhm.
But once he barrels again, like he's never bluffing. People say that he's never bluffing, and they kind of mean like he's rarely bluffing, but I mean like he's never bluffing.
Yeah. Yeah.
like like that literally has never happened.
Yeah.
And a lot of people too, they say things like, "Yeah, I'm very capable." This is weird. We're three betting pocket threes down here.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Um, yeah, no. The only time that I think we ever talked about is that you might want to three bet like pairs in position, maybe, is if you're just gonna get squeezed all the time by the people in the blinds. But that was like when we were, I think we were playing like 1-2 or something, which,
Well, here's the deal. Here's the deal with pairs. Pairs are great in two circumstances.
okay.
They're great when you have a lot of money behind and you can try to flop a set and win a big pot.
Mm-hmm.
And they're great when your opponents are going to put a lot of money in pre-flop and then fold to an all-in.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I would only be three betting my threes if I thought this guy was likely to four bet bluff me so I could jam.
Mm-hmm.
I have like a sinking feeling that ace high is trying to is going to fold here to a four bet.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And if that's the case, then our threes are 7 deuce, but we know that threes have great value to flat and try to flop a set with. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, it's it's unfortunate mistake to waste a hand like that. Now, obviously, in some games I play where like the pre-flop action gets really crazy, it's a beautiful thing to have your opponent four bet you, to 25, 26 big blinds with ace six, and then fold incorrectly against your jam of pocket threes.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great thing. But like we have to be in a very, very, very aggressive setting, and even by the way, in those games, it's still usually more profitable to just flat and try to flop a set.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And then the last thing is, again, something I've talked about before, but I'm going to steal from Phil Galfond, who said, was Phil Galfond? Yeah. Who said, so we win the pot there with threes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that reinforces us that's like, okay, I did something that was good.
Yeah.
Well, you did something that was plus EV, But this is another mental gap that's really difficult to bridge, which is there's a big difference between what's plus EV and what's good.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of things are plus EV, but they're like the least plus EV thing you could do.
Right.
You could, he has ace king in the bottom left. He could just raise. He could go all in right now. That's definitely plus EV, right?
Yeah.
But like, it's definitely not the best thing that could be done. We called 2 streets up there with Queen Jack, and then he checked the river. I think. What do you think? Actually, what do you think about this river for a second? This is quite interesting.
Well, when he barrels 2 streets, I think that he can have like king queens or ace queen. So here, I mean, I don't think it's a bad spot at all to turn your hand into a bluff in the
Cool.
cases that he has better hands than yours. And, but I don't think that you can bet for value at all.
No, definitely not value. In fact, if we're, honestly, like the turn call is even pretty thin.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say too. But
This guy looks like he's like a 30-25, and so like, there's a decent chance that he's, that he could be turning, pocket nines or ace whatever, ace jack or ace hearts plus whatever, bluffing them on the turn. So I'm guessing I'm like sort of okay. But you're right. He's value betting a lot on the turn. So the question is, can we get him to fold ace queen, king queen, pocket kings, pocket aces, stuff like that have no heart? And I think yeah. So I would bomb this river.
yeah,
This is a good spot. This is a good spot to bluff.
and I think so for bet size, it
I
should
mean,
be
even there with a jack, like that's a tough call if we shove.
yeah.
I would shove
Oh,
probably.
what was this pot size?
It was like there was a little more than a pot size bet left behind, I think.
Oh, okay, gotcha. I couldn't see the numbers, but
Yeah.
do you think that he was checking like to bluff catch? I mean, I think that happens so not that often that I think it's still good enough to like still bet there.
I think he's checking because he can't get value, and because he doesn't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
He's hoping that you'll check it down.
Yeah.
I think that if we bet small, he'll definitely call given the pot odds.
Right.
But I think that if we shove, there's a good chance. And then, by the way, that's like really close to the top of his range.
Mm-hmm.
He has the third nuts, like that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Like, and we can see that the turn call's not that bad. He had a lot of bluff hands on the turn there.
Mm-hmm.
So like I'm okay with that. You might be able to make an argument for shoving the turn. Shoving the turn is kind of a couple of cool effects. Effect number 1 is you probably get him off of those same things you were going to try to bluff him off on the river.
Mm-hmm.
Like aces no heart there has a real hard time coming along.
So it's like a merge.
It's a merge. It's a triple range merge. Yeah, I love the micros, by the way.
I know, it's seriously the best.
I Vanessa Self's part in the World Series special.
Yeah.
I laughed my ass off at that because it's perfect. But no, what I was going to say is, so a few things can happen. Number 1, you either get him to fold a hand like King Jack with a heart, like a lot of equity, or he calls and he's a dog.
Mm-hmm.
Or the other guy calls. You're only really hosed when the other guy has a 2-card flush, but like that doesn't happen that often. It's hard to have 2-card flushes.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, it's not something you should do every time. And never against someone who's not aggressive. You know what I mean? If someone doesn't have a wide range on the turn there with a lot of equity bluffs, then you should just, fold.
Yeah.
But against somebody who's bluffing with a ton of equity, someone who might be unlikely to fire the river as a bluff, somebody who might be able to fold something like 2 aces there, no heart. Those turn raises are like a really interesting spot. It essentially is turning your hand into a bluff, but we have to understand that like bluffing him off of King Jack there with the Jack of Hearts is actually pretty sweet.
Mm-hmm.
On the turn. He has a ton of equity there. Like bluffing him off of 40% of a big pot is a very good result.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Cool. This has actually been like a pretty interesting, good session, I think.
So we were talking earlier about how, if someone's 3-bet is so,
Oh, yeah, like 5, 6, 7 in that range.
yeah. So there's a hand, just one hand ago on the bottom left, where the button raised clam sauce, and then,
Oh, I saw we had Ace King, the Ace King hand.
oh, yeah, ace queen.
Oh, Ace Queen. Okay, I see here.
Um, so when he's 3-betting, obviously he's never bluffing. So it, I don't, obviously, like, I don't think you can 4-bet for value. So do you, do you just fold or do you flat? Like,
Well, there's a few things that we can do. Um, I wouldn't fold because Ace Queen, even against like a 5 or 6% range, still has like a lot of equity.
especially in the positions that,
Yeah, and it's also because keep in mind that the 5.6 stat. This is one thing that once upon a time I was like I hate stats. Now I don't hate them, but we just have to take them for what they're worth.
yeah.
His 5.6% stat is his overall 3-bet stat.
hmm
It is not his small blind versus the button.
Right, right.
You know, I 3-bet you. You're a 28, 25 who's opening the button probably like 70% or something, right?
Yeah.
Like so in that sense. I don't think his range is as tight as in that spot as the stat might represent. Right? It's still probably pretty tight. What I would say is this: in these spots, I actually still do prefer a small 4-bet.
Okay.
For a few reasons. Number one, I think that it's one of those spots where if we flat, we're like rarely ever inducing action post flop.
Right. Okay.
One of the reasons why like I love to 3-bet and then flat a 4-bet or something like that is because when you do something like that where your hand is people get confused, they don't put you on strong things they would expect you to shove. They put you on kind of weak things that they might be able to move you off of or whatever. In a spot like this where you cold call a 3-bet from the big blind, everyone knows you have a hand,
Yeah.
right? And so on an ace high board, on a queen high board, you're not getting a lot of bluffs.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So one of the whole reasons why I was saying before, like we should flat against polarized ranges, we should flat to induce action, is because I think the other people will bet. In this spot, I don't think that it's going to happen that often.
Okay.
So, uh, 4-betting, cold 4-betting is good because it gets him to fold equity, which is good. And like we have a lot of blockers to things that are really strong. So in general, I think it's probably fine. If he comes over the top here, he. How big did we make it? We make it 20. We made it 20. Um, you know, against a guy like this, you honestly could probably just fold. The math is going to come out really close. If had we made it a little bit bigger, we have to go with it. You know what I'm saying? But against a guy like this, who's might not be that aggressive pre-flop, it's okay to fold. Against somebody who's like even a little bit more aggressive than that, though, I just shove.
Okay.
Yeah. What did we do here?
You
I
folded.
feel like we folded, yeah. It's this is one of those things that's really weird. Against people who have no bluff range there for coming over the top, or who have no wide range, we can quite literally know exactly what hands they have, and there's only like 5 of them. Ace king, pocket aces, pocket kings, pocket queens, pocket jacks. And that's it. And if we stove ourselves against that range, we're gonna have to find ourselves, with, a certain amount of equity or a certain amount of, pot equity against that range. And I think that probably, given the odds, we're not getting quite good enough. Again, this is math someone can do. But like I said, if we do it a little bit bigger pre-flop, then we do have to go with it. But I like our size. I think our size is good there. Cool. Well, I think that's gonna do it for today. Thank you again, Ace High, for the video, and Kristy, as always. Thank you. Great job, by the way, with the World Series coverage.
Oh, thank you. Glad it's
I,
over.
like many other Jesus Crack members, followed along and enjoyed watching it. Yeah, cool. Thank you guys for watching. This has been Andrew Beluga Whale Sideman and Kristy Arnett. Say bye, Kristy.
Bye.
See you guys next time, only on DeucesCrack.com.